Thanks for checking out Western Mountain Web. I want to explain in this video here a little bit about who I am and where I came from and how did we start founding Western Mountain Web. There will be some timestamps here, so if you want to jump ahead like, what does this guy do? I'll go ahead and do that. But for those that want some context and some background, I'll go ahead and explain. Of course, I am one of the late 90s high schoolers, and like many late 90s high schoolers, I did tinker around with some computers here and there. And I put up my first website in the late 90s on GeoCities, and boy, was it horrible. Because every website was horrible in those days. I mean, pictures had just found their way to the internet less than a year or two since. JavaScript, CSS wasn't a thing, so it was like throw up some text, throw up some images, put up some horrible looking graphics, and call it a website. And fortunately, that site is kind of down for 20 something years, but hey, that's okay. I actually kept on studying and learning websites, mostly as I diversion as I did some graduate level work in the sciences. And then I went out and worked in that career for a number of years until about 2010, and I just kind of walked away from all of what I was doing, and I founded Western Mountain Web Design. And I founded this mostly to work from home. I loved working with computer technologies, and I wanted to move away from the classroom because of some of the directions I saw many schools and such moving in. And so I founded Western Mountain Web Design and just started doing some local contracts with local people, and then eventually found organizations like Odesk and Elance, and grew up to have a various number of clients in a number of different places. Although I focus mostly on small business things, keeping things fairly small and individual and personal. So if you are looking for somebody who is more personal and you can call and reach and ask questions to, I'm the guy that you want to go to. Now, as far as my early work, I did my early work in what was called at that time browser compatibility. Nowadays, most browsers are actually based on the Google Chrome base called Chromium. There's also Firefox. Edge from Microsoft has moved also to Chromium. Firefox is a separate thing, and Safari is a separate thing. But back in 2010, there were all these different web browsers, and every one of them rendered web pages differently. And to make sure that a website looked the same and consistent for everybody, my first jobs were working for a big publishing group, and my task was browser compatibility. I had to make sure websites were built that looked exactly the same no matter where a person was at. So this actually gave me the ability to do fine attention to detail and looking and making sure that things are working consistently across the board. This was even before that old Web 2.0 thing you might have ever heard about. Now that is an old technology that has come and it is gone. It was skeuomorphic graphics that made everything look kind of 3D. I have to silently confess I sort of like that type of approach, but not all the time. Now, I was in the field when responsive web design didn't exist, and I learned to do responsive web design while it was still developing. This led me to learn and understand Bootstrap as the primary means that I use to do browser compatibility, but I have other means of doing browser compatibility if Bootstrap is not within your scope. Now, talk about my expertise. Okay, I work primarily in a variety of different server technologies and in content management systems. As far as the server end goes, I'm the guy that has worked with nearly every hosting company. I know cPanel and WHM that controls cPanel. I know Plesk. I've set up AWS servers, including responsive and elastic servers. I have worked with a variety of different cloud contents. In addition to that, I also know the terminal-based Linux management of servers, so I can do that type of stuff as well. As far as your website design, I do, of course, manage some regular raw HTML pages, but I also focus a lot on WordPress and Joomla content management systems, or CMS systems. So if you are in need of somebody to manage or build a WordPress site or a Joomla site, I can actually work within those constraints. And I'm not the guy who just installs it with a script and then downloads a theme from the internet and populates it. There's a lot of people that talk about They can do WordPress sites, and that's their approach. They just buy a theme online, which are notoriously slow, notoriously buggy, and notoriously hacking targets. And that's what you don't want. What I rather do instead with WordPress and with Joomla is I build all of my custom themes from the ground up. I have worked for a long time and have the bare bones tech capabilities of starting with something simple, and then I merge it and morph it into what you need. Rather than relying on extensive uses of plugins, I build as much function into your theme custom as I can. That way it minimizes you needing to get plugins, because really when you're getting into WordPress and Joomla, you might hear about some of the security risks. It's not because of the core applications. It's because the average site that gets hacked is decked down with dozens and dozens of plugins, oftentimes not managed or secured. Those are the situations and the solutions that I provide. I make sure that that type of stuff doesn't happen. As far as the type of work that I do, I work on small business management primarily, so I'm not a big corporate guy. I've worked in those environments, however. I can't actually work with a team of people, but for the most part, I work with small businesses. I help keep small businesses' web and technologies going. I do focus on doing a lot of backups, doing a lot of updates. So in the event there's a problem, in the event you need to move servers, in the event these are all issues you run into, I have the capability of getting you back up and running somewhere else in a very low amount of time. So there's a brief introduction to who I am and who Western Mountain Web Design is. Thanks for checking out the video. If you have any future questions, go ahead and reach out to me on the contact form, westernmtnweb.com. Thanks for watching.